Behavior Interactive has a stated goal for Dead by Daylight: balance the game around a 60% kill rate to keep the horror alive and the game relatively balanced. But what if the real number isn't even close? According to the community's own data, the average kill rate has actually plummeted below 50% and seems to be dropping still. Now, I can already see the comments firing up. 50% should be the goal for a balanced game, or Nightlight isn't official so the stats don't matter. And I get it, but I'm asking you to stick around as I break down why those points don't show the full picture. The simple truth is that balance in a 4v1 is more complicated than a 50-50 split. And while community data isn't from the devs, it validates a feeling that thousands of players have had for months, and it's still mostly accurate. This goes beyond numbers on a spreadsheet. It's a feeling that has settled in for so many of us, especially killer mains, for months. The game just feels different. Chases seem longer, gens fly faster, and locking in a kill feels tougher than ever. Today, we're going to be digging into why this is happening and explore how a long series of survivor-sided tweaks might be adding together to start rattling the game's foundation. First, let's talk about that 60% target. Hearing that, you might think, shouldn't it be 50-50 for a fair game? But Dead by Daylight is a 4v1 asymmetrical horror game, and the math for balance works a little differently. Think of it this way: a 0k or a 1k is a crushing loss for the killer, a 3k or 4k is a clear win, and a 2k is functionally a draw. For the killer to feel like a genuine threat, that tie state needs to lean slightly in their favor, a sentiment that Behavior has stated multiple times. A 60% kill rate, which averages out to 2.4 kills per match, is the sweet spot Behavior aims for. It means that when you load into a trial, survival should feel like an achievement, not the expected outcome. Hey, Editing Kovo here. I just wanted to chime in. As well as what I've stated before, the developers have gone on record multiple times in community streams when challenged on their targeted 60% kill rate. They've said time and time again that a tie overwhelmingly feels like a loss on the killer side and often feels like a win on the survivor side due to the stress and effort needed to play the killer role, a sentiment that I'm sure most of us would agree with. So that's the goal. What's the reality? According to Nightlight, the largest community-run tracker for Dead by Daylight stats, the numbers tell a very different story. While this is community-sourced data and not official numbers from Behavior, it's the most up-to-date picture we have. As of early 2026, the overall average kill rates have been hovering below 50%, or more than 10% below the developer's own target. Statistically, the game is survivor-sided. As somebody who tries to see the pros and cons of both sides equally, that's a hard thing for me to say. To put this into perspective, even some of the game's top-performing killers, like the Blight, are struggling to hit that 60% average. Recent data shows them at 52.76%. And that's one of the highest in the game. When some of the best killers in the game, played by people who main them, are falling short of the average target for the entire roster, you know there's an issue. So the question you might be asking is, what gives? How did we get here? It wasn't one single massive change, it's been a slow creep, or a death by 1,000 paper cuts from countless patches that have buffed the survivor role in small ways. When I say death by 1,000 cuts, I mean that there's no one patch we can look at, maybe except for the quality of life palette density update that was fixed, that we can point to and say this is the one that broke the role. We got a bunch of patches with small changes that boosted their effectiveness, and it's added together to form this declining kill rate. These include base kit changes, map tweaks, quality of life adjustments, and an increasing number of perks that stack for insane results. If you look at patch notes over the last year or so, you'll find that survivors have consistently received more positive adjustments than killers. This slow drip of buffs has sent survivor efficiency through the roof. Let's talk about the perks first. It's not just about one strong perk, but the way they stack together. Synergistic healing builds can completely invalidate a hit-and-run playstyle. If a killer hits a survivor and leaves to pressure a generator, that survivor can be healed and back in the fight in just a handful of seconds. You cannot leave a survivor injured. You either get the down and hook them, or you basically waste all your time. A chase and a hit that should have taken someone out of the game for a solid minute is completely invalidated by a 3-second heal before the killer can even cross the map. And then there are generators. Stacking perks that boost generator repair speed can get gens done at an alarming rate, especially for a coordinated team. If generators are popping left and right, the killer's ability to spread pressure evaporates. It forces you into a tunneling playstyle, not out of a desire to be toxic, but out of necessity. If you don't secure a kill quickly, you'll look up and see 3 gens done before you've even gotten your second hook. That loss of the killer's most precious resource, being time, changes everything. And these are just the most obvious examples. I could go on for hours about how other subtle changes, like the 70-second hook states or map adjustments that increase pallet density, have unfairly chipped away at the 1 in this 1v4 game. I'm curious, what do you guys think is the biggest reason for this drop? Is it the perk stacking, the map changes, or something else entirely? Let me know down in the comments. And honestly, I haven't seen many people talking about this specific issue of the kill rates dropping so drastically, and I think it's one of the most important conversations we can be having about the game's health right now. So if you agree, please like this video, share it with your friends, and hype it up if you're on mobile to get this message out there. I don't normally ask for people to directly spread my videos, but this is a subject I really want to be talked about right now. And this is data supporting what we've all been feeling. This all brings us to a bigger, more philosophical problem than behavior's balancing method. The developers lean heavily on internal spreadsheets and raw data to make their decisions. A data-driven approach seems logical, but it can often miss the crucial human element for the game. It's what leads people to conclude that behavior doesn't play their own game, that they balance off spreadsheets. For instance, their stats might show a certain killer has a healthy 60% kill rate. Side note, that's something that none of them do at the moment. The highest is Trickster with 59.7, I believe. The spreadsheet doesn't show how those kills were achieved. It doesn't show that the killer had to tunnel one person out at 5 gens or slug the whole team just to stay competitive. The data doesn't reflect that the killer might be fundamentally weak in a standard chase, forcing them into these frustrating strategies. The spreadsheet sees a number and registers it as fine, while players are stuck in miserable one-dimensional matches. This growing imbalance has real consequences for the game's health. When the average kill rate is below 50%, the core fantasy of Dead by Daylight starts to fade. The killer is no longer a terrifying force to be outsmarted or the power roll, but an obstacle to be managed efficiently. When escaping becomes the standard outcome, the tension just kind of vanishes. The game stops being a desperate fight for your life and becomes a time management simulator for the survivors. Naturally, this affects the player base. Killer mains grow frustrated and stop playing, or they feel locked into using the same 3 or 4 meta killers just to have a chance. We see this reflected in the incredibly low pick rates for most of the killer roster. This, in turn, means longer queue times for survivors and a stale meta for everyone. I made a point in one of my previous videos that the bonus for playing the game has shifted to the killer role recently. This was before 2v8 messed everything up. That's yet again more evidence to this point. And if this trend continues, it threatens the very asymmetrical horror that makes Dead by Daylight unique. So what's the solution? It's a tough knot to untangle, but the community has been discussing a few clear paths forward that I want to talk about. First, and this is a big one, something has to be done about the extreme perk stacking. A simple fix could be to cap efficiency bonuses. For example, perhaps no combination of perks and items should allow a generator to be completed in under 30 seconds solo. I would say that should be obvious, but take a look at where we are right now. Honestly, I don't think a gen should be able to be completed in 30 seconds even if there are 4 survivors on it. Nerfing the cap on efficiency wouldn't nerf individual perks into the ground, but it would establish a ceiling on those wild game-breaking combinations. Second, the focus should shift to buffing weaker killers. So many killers have been left in the dust by years of power creep. Instead of sweeping nerfs to survivors, let's bring the bottom half of the killer roster up to par. I don't think survivors should not have a fun time in the game. I don't want them to be nerfed into not being able to do anything. I think we need to bring up the weaker characters and balance around that. Giving targeted buffs to characters like the Trapper, Ghostface, or any of the other killers with consistently low kill rates would instantly make them more viable and add some much needed variety to matches. And I know that's something survivors want too. Not to mention, it would probably pull this terrible kill rate up. Another idea, and I know this one is controversial, is to finally add official in-game voice chat for the survivor team. The immediate counter-argument is always toxicity, and that's a valid concern. But let's be realistic. With a robust mute and report function, it likely wouldn't be any worse than the in-game chat we already have. I personally can't go 3 games without somebody telling me to go next IRL in some clever way. More importantly, adding voice chat would allow the developers to finally balance the game around the assumption that all survivors have communication. It would almost completely bridge the massive gap between coordinated sweat with friends groups and solo players, getting rid of a huge variable and letting behavior make much more accurate adjustments to hit that 60% kill rate. I know it's weird calling for survivor buffs in a video talking about a lower kill rate, but I do genuinely believe this would allow them to balance the game much more accurately. Finally, we could use more transparency from the developers. While an official stat tracker now exists, releasing official aggregate balance data would more often than not give everyone a clear, shared picture of the game's health. I can personally see why they don't do this, as it would give players a smoking gun, so to speak, when they make bad changes, and they want the freedom to make changes without the community jumping down their throats with evidence. But this is still a change I'd love to see, no matter how unlikely it is. The signs are all there. Dead by Daylight's balance has shifted, and the game is suffering for it. The dropping kill rates are a symptom of survivor power creep and a balancing philosophy that's struggling to keep up. The game is getting dangerously close to losing the identity that we all fell in love with, and many can say that it already has. The killer must be a threat, survival must feel like an accomplishment, and that 4v1 dynamic has to be protected. Behavior can still steer this ship back on course. By tackling perk stacking, showing some love to weaker killers, and being more open with their data, they can restore the balance. The future of the game we all cherish depends on them doing something. But that's my take. What do you all think? Are you feeling this imbalance in your own games? Are you a killer main who's struggling, or a survivor main who thinks I'm crazy and everything's fine? Let me know down in the comments. I'm really curious to hear what everyone's experience has been. And if you found this breakdown helpful, consider liking and subscribing for more deep dives into Dead by Daylight and other ASIM games. Finally, on a much more positive note, I want to give a massive thank you to my channel members. When I started my membership program, I wanted to do something a little different than what people normally do, and to that end, I decided that 100% of all my membership income would be donated to my local animal shelters. Thanks to my channel members, we've been able to donate over $800 so far to my local shelters, with more to come very soon. If you want to join my list of amazing channel members and help make a small difference in an animal's life, you can do so for as little as $2 a month. Again, a massive thank you and a massive shout out to all my channel members. You guys, like I said, are frankly amazing. But that's all I have for you. As always, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the fog.